Hey there, welcome to the video. Finishing off part 3 of the chapter 4 notes. I can't exactly remember where we left things, but I know we talked about phase shift, and we were working on this particular equation, 3 sine of 2x minus pi over 3 plus 1. Let's look at part C, just to make sure I close the loop on that problem. You're asked to find the amplitude, which of course is 3. So right here, amp is 3. So how can you get the four characteristics direct from the equation without graphing? And how can you use it to graph the function directly? So yeah, obviously I know the amplitude is 3. The period I know is going to be pi. You're doing 2 pi over b, and the b value is 2. And if you factor out the 2, you get x minus pi over 6. So the phase shift, I'll call it PS, is pi over 6, and it's positive because you're going to the right. And the vertical shift, call it VS, will be up 1. You can see a positive 1 there. Now, how can you use that information to get to graph the function directly? Well, you could put 1, and I usually like to do a little dash line. I'll call that my midline. So that's y equals 1. I'm going to call that my mid line. And then the amplitude is 3, so I'm going to go 3 higher and 3 lower from the midline. So up 3, down 3, up 3, down 3. The phase shift is pi over 6. So I'm going to start at pi over 6 right here. Period's pi, so I'm going to go pi distance away. And then, yeah, it just started here. And it's a sine graph, so it starts here. You're not going to go down first, going to go up first because there's no vertical, there's no reflection about the x-axis. We'll partition like this. Halfway between these guys, 4 pi over 6, which is 2 pi over 3. And if you change these like to 2 pi over 12 and 14 pi over 12, then this will be 8 pi over 12. And a messy handwriting, then you should get 5 pi over 12 right there. And you should get 11 pi over 12 right there. But then I'll it's got really messy here. My apologies. Again, it's 2 pi over 3. It's graphing green, so it stands out. So dot here, dot here, dot here, low, middle. Boom, boom, boom. There's a graph. Okay. Now let's talk about the next 2 pages before we finish off the part 3 notes. So, this is a general how we can write these equations. They use C and D. I like using H and K. So, I mean, personally, I like this. A times sine bracket B parentheses X minus H plus K. They have it written a little differently here. But because they don't factor out the B just yet, if you were to factor it out, you have X plus or minus C over B. So when you find the phase shift, the left and right endpoints would be negative C over B to positive C over B. That's what you would be assuming there. Vertical shift obviously is D straight up. So there you go. No pun intended. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, if you factor out B from Bx plus C, then you're adding and subtracting C over B. So the left and right endpoints would be negative C over B to positive C over B. But I don't usually like doing it that way. To be honest with you, I like just doing this. So I'll say it's H, negative H to H, right? And of course, that would be K, the way I do it. So in this case here, this example, you're asked to graph it. So what I'm going to do is going to do y equals negative 3 cosine bracket, pull out the pi, x plus, you just put plus 3 because you just pulled out a pi. There's no d value. Now I did say the whole start and end thing. I like doing that still because it just tells me where to start and end the graph, right? So pi x will equal negative 3 pi. X is negative 3 as it should be because of the phase shift. Where you end the graph. Pi x plus 3 pi equals 2 pi. So you get negative pi, so pi x equals negative pi. Come on. So x will be negative 1. So that's how it's going to go. And plus the period is 2 pi over b. 2 pi over pi is 2. And I just ran out of space, so I'll just erase that. But the period's 2, that totally makes sense. So I'll do it like this here. -1, -2, and -3. And just more partition, obviously -2.5, -1.5. No midline, so because no vertical shift. You go up 3 and down 3 from the midline. The midline's at the x-axis, obviously. It's cosine, so it's going to start at its peak. But it's negative, so it's going to start below. Then middle, then high, middle, low. Boom, boom, boom. There you go. There's a graph. You can always plug in Desmos too to verify, but the period's definitely 2. Definitely shifted 3 left to get started. Yeah, amplitude's 3, no vertical shift, so we're good. And in terms of these things, period's 3, period's 2, phase shift -3, vertical shift 0. Okay, hopefully you're feeling more comfortable here. Now this I love. These are my favorite problems actually, where you have to write the equation from the graph. We're at one in terms of sine, one in terms of cosine. Now you could actually, there are infinite possibilities because you could choose a phase shift wherever you want it to be, but the amplitude is never going to change. The amplitude in this case is 2. The period, length of one cycle, is 4. If the period is 4, then 2 pi over b equals 4. Solve for b. B should be pi over 2. Yep, pi over 2. So that's going to be true for both sine and cosine. The vertical shift, it's -3. That's where a midline is. So -3, that's easy. That'd be true for both sine or cosine. That wouldn't change one bit. Now, the phase shift is where it could change. But in general, we're going to have y equals 2 times sine, bracket, pi over 2, x minus something, bracket, -3. Or for cosine, it'd be y equals 2 times cosine. And by the way, you could make a negative if you wanted to. You could start at the low point for cosine, or if you start sine, have it go down, then up. You could make a negative if you want to, but we'll make a positive. For these examples, I say let's make. But it could be negative if you so desire. Actually, really, really good test question. So we shall see. Pi over 2 x minus. Now, for sine, let's say we start here. Then there's no phase shift, so you can put 0 there. No phase shift at all. But if you do it here, you're starting up high, then be -1 because you're going 1 to the right, and that's what we would get. And plus, if you were to plug in 1, you have cosine of 0, which is 1. 2 times 1 minus 3 is -1. Or if you plug in 3 here, 3 minus 1 is 2. 2 times pi over 2 is pi. Cosine of pi is -1. 2 times -2, -2 minus 3 is -5. So that makes sense also. So you can always check your work too and know your unit circle. But you could have actually started the sine back here if you wanted to, and started the cosine there, or you could start the sine here and the cosine there. There's a lot of different ways you could do it. And remember, sine and cosine are always going to be off by pi over 2, which makes sense because if I distribute that, that'd be actually a difference of pi over 2 from the sine. So look at B to wrap up this video. So here, let's say our midline is what? So that's 55 down to 5. The average of that is going to be 30, I think. Just 25 each. Yep. So your vertical shift is 30. Making your amplitude 20. We'll make a positive again. Is 25. The period, the length of one cycle, it looks like it goes from 0 to 12. Or if I look over here, gosh, that's kind of hard to tell actually. But the peak, I think, is a little easier to read from peak to peak, like 12 to 24. So your period is definitely 12. 2 pi over b equals 12. So b is going to be pi over 6 when you work that out. So b is pi over 6. So you have y equals 25 times sine pi over 6, parentheses x minus, it could be x plus if you want to make the phase shift to left, plus 30 at the end. or y equals 25 times cosine pi over 6 x minus plus 30. Okay. The cosine, we could probably just start at 0. So we'll say there's no phase shift there because it's starting the peak already. And here's the other peak at 12. And it's not really shown, but it looks like that's probably going to be 3. Because 6 is halfway between the 9 is 3/4 of the way. So, but I'll probably start it at 9 here because you want to go up and down. So you do that. But if you wanted to, you could have made that negative and then -3. That could work, or it goes down then up. But I want to keep a positive. Or if I kind of go backwards a little bit, then I know that's going to be at -3. So it'd be x plus 3. All depends if I impose a certain restriction on h. If I don't, then, it's a free-for-all. You can do a lot of different things here. And it makes sense if you show the pi over 6, then you get pi over 2. And as I said, sine cosine should be off by pi over 2. Okay, there you go. That concludes the video.